In the farthest edge of explored space, where stars blinked like dying embers, a Coalition survey ship named Ardent Drift moved slowly through the silence of a forgotten system. Its crew was mostly bored scanning lifeless rocks and cold voids until something changed. A signal blinked faint, but sharp. It repeated in a strange pattern. Buried under layers of radiation, the frequency was human, or at least that was what the system's translator screamed before shorting out. Captain Reelan, an old veteran of the Coalition Navy, frowned at the screen while Junior Officer Tarek, a young alien of the Shi'ari race, leaned forward, his eyes wide. He had studied ancient Earth records in secret, and he whispered that this pattern resembled Earth's lost military language from over 20,000 cycles ago. Everyone scoffed. But the signal pulsed again, this time stronger, as if aware it had been noticed. And deep beneath that pulse was a single ancient word: awakening. Tarek begged to divert the ship toward the source. Despite protocol, the captain hesitated, but curiosity and a quiet fear drove him to agree. The ship moved through the dense asteroid field, cautiously avoiding ancient wreckage that floated like bones of old wars. Then they saw it. The shape was buried under kilometers of drifting rock, a structure so vast it looked like a broken moon. It had no lights, no signs of life, yet it hummed beneath the void. Its edges sharper than any known design, and its surface was blacker than any material the Coalition knew about, long and thick like an old sea creature from myth. The object did not match any registry database, not even the ancient war relics that the Coalition kept in its darkest archives. They tried scanning it again, and this time their systems shut down entirely. Emergency lights flickered. The crew scrambled to restore control even as the ship drifted powerless toward the mass. Then a low hum began, not from the Ardent Drift, but from the object itself. The signal changed, not just in strength, but in tone and rhythm. It became musical, deep like a chant, echoing through metal and stars. Suddenly all screens lit up with strange glyphs, old Earth script, not used in millennia. One word slowly appeared across the screen: Odin. And then another line: designation Odin online. Humanity returns. The silence fell in the command room. The crew watched their screens, stunned, unsure if they had triggered a trap or woken a legend. The object, now clearly a ship, began to shift, asteroid dust falling away as ancient engines flickered to life. For the first time in 20 millennia, its hull glowed, dim blue lines etching themselves along its body like veins waking under skin. Internal systems sparked one by one, awakening armor ports, drone hatches, antenna rays, and weapon bays that hummed without heat or power signature, as if the ship had built its own energy from the void itself. Tarek stood in front of the main window, his mouth slightly open. His kind had always spoken of humans as reckless, wild, brilliant, and lost. This ship felt like proof of all those things. It felt like the humans had planned for a future they never got to see. Something in Tarek's chest stirred, not fear, but awe and an aching sense of truth. Something ancient was not just sleeping here. It had been waiting. Captain Reelan finally barked out orders, calling nearby outposts, requesting backup, and sealing the ship's intersections in case of interference. But it was too late. The Odin had made first contact without moving, without firing. It had already claimed attention across the quadrant. More Coalition ships began rerouting toward the dead system, while news of the awakening passed between powerful leaders like wildfire. The Coalition Council feared the return of something old, something they could not control, because no one alive had ever seen a full human supercarrier. And this one was not just intact, it was waking up as hours passed. Drones floated out of Odin, scanning the wreckage in the asteroid field, gathering pieces and pulling them back into the ship. They moved like insects, graceful and perfect, precise, beyond anything modern engineering could produce. The ship began to hum louder, a resonance that reached into the bones of everyone nearby, even across space. The message kept repeating, not just in human language, but in translated packets to all known systems: we return, we return. We return aboard the Ardent Drift. Tarek sat alone in the observation room, watching the Titan shift beneath starlight. He wondered if any humans still existed, if they would hear this call, and what they would say when they did, because deep in the void, a voice from a world thought lost had just broken the silence, and nothing would ever be the same again. The Coalition responded fast. Within hours, a dozen more ships arrived at the edge of the system, forming a loose perimeter around the awakening giant named Odin. Some came to observe, some came to study, but most came prepared to attack if needed. Massive cruisers hovered silently with weapons armed and crews on alert, their captains unsure if this was a threat, a gift, or a ghost from humanity's forgotten empire. Inside the Ardent Drift, Tarek paced restlessly, unable to look away from the view as Odin slowly rotated, clearing debris from its hull and revealing lines of architecture too elegant for its sheer size. Towers rose along the spine of the ship, shield arrays unfolded, Like petals glowing dimly with old power, the vessel was no ordinary warship. It was beautiful in its construction, majestic like a temple forged by ancient hands. Not meant for destruction but protection, and something else, something deeper inside. Odin, deep behind sealed doors and ancient core, reactivated data streamed across glowing panel systems, blinked to life, one by one revealing the preserved minds of its creators. Not all human, not all digital, but something between. The lead mind among them was Admiral Rachel Voss, her memories encoded into Odin's command systems, her thoughts layered in code and memory files waiting for the moment she would be needed again. Her consciousness flickered and spread across the ship, assessing its systems, measuring the threat levels outside and recognizing the coalition vessels as foreign, but not hostile. Yet her voice did not return. Instead, the ship continued its quiet preparation, charging core power, restoring life support, rebuilding drones, and scanning the galaxy for something lost long ago. Tarek begged Captain Reelan to send a small exploration pod to Odin for closer analysis. Reelan hesitated, but finally approved the mission under tight restrictions. Tarek suited up along with 2 other officers and entered the pod. Their path was direct toward a docking segment that opened slowly as they approached. No weapons, no alarms, just silent doors sliding back, as if welcoming them. The pod entered and locked in place, and once inside, the lights turned gold, soft and warm, unlike any military ship they had ever seen. The air was breathable, the pressure perfect, the architecture smooth like stone and steel blended together. Ancient yet Olivia's. They stepped out. A voice echoed through the corridor, not loud, but calm. Welcome aboard, Odin Coalition observers. This is a neutral vessel. Your presence is noted and permitted. You may proceed with caution and respect. Tarek shivered, not from fear, but from the surreal tone. The voice felt human, but not just that, it felt like it had been waiting for conversation. For a very long time, they walked through winding halls where lights turned on. As they moved ahead, revealing murals etched into the walls, stories of ancient spacefaring humans building cities on moons, fighting off alien predators, sharing technology with new species, and then slowly fading from records, not because they were destroyed, but because they chose to leave. In a grand chamber filled with pillars and floating orbs of light, the observers found what looked like a central archive. Massive data cores rose from the floor and began to pulse as they approached, unlocking files, not only in text but in sound and memory. The walls around them shimmered and changed, showing images of Earth, not the blue calm world they knew, but a world in flames and shadow. Then ships launching by the thousands, fleeing in every direction, carrying people, knowledge, and the last hope of survival the humans had built Odin as their ark, not just to escape but to remember and return. When the galaxy was ready outside in space, the coalition fleet debated their next move. The council transmitted a cautious order: hold position, observe, do not engage. But fear was growing. Some captains wanted to disable Odin before it could finish waking up. They argued that anything powerful enough to build such a ship and vanish without trace might also have planned for revenge against those who filled the void after them. But others argued this was not a weapon, it was a memory, a message left in metal and light. Meanwhile, Odin continued to speak, but now to the galaxy, encrypted waves, carrying ancient human code translated and sent outward across the stars. The phrase repeated in thousands of languages: we remember, we return, we reach for home. On board the Ardent Drift, the crew watched as the pod team sent back recordings of their findings. Tarek spoke directly to the bridge, his voice trembling not with fear, but awe. He said, "This is not just a ship. It is a legacy the humans left behind, something far bigger than we ever imagined. And it is waking up, not to fight, but to finish a promise." As he spoke, the lights of Odin shifted again, turning from gold to soft white. The ship rotated slowly, positioning itself toward the galactic core. A pulse of energy burst from its engines, not to fly but to signal, and the signal spread across space like a ripple, calling out to something or someone. And in the silence after the message, one word echoed in every coalition system, every human colony, every forgotten relay: Odin, the sleeping giant, had not only woken, it had started moving forward again, and nothing in the galaxy could stop it now. Inside the coalition's high command chambers, tension burned like fire across the grand oval table, where admirals and ambassadors of various species argued without pause. The broadcast from Odin had gone viral across all networks, sparking panic, curiosity, and fear. Thousands of ships rerouted their courses. Civilians watched in silence, while fringe human colonies began holding vigils, believing their ancestors had returned from myth. The council demanded answers and sent war orders wrapped in diplomacy, at the same time commanding all fleet captains to block Odin's path until further notice, as if a ship that old and silent would even notice their threats aboard Odin. The central mind of Admiral Rachel Voss monitored everything through memory strands and sensor threads. Her mind was not human anymore, but it carried human grief and human intent. She watched the Coalition build its ring around her ship and saw old tactics repeated by new hands. She remembered the wars that led to Odin's creation and how humanity fractured trying to save too much too fast. Odin was never meant to be a weapon. It was meant to protect the last seed of Earth. If Earth was gone, then her mission was only half complete. Her presence flickered through the walls, through drones and command links, watching the intruders, who now walked respectfully through her halls, documenting her memories, unlocking her story. Astarak stood inside the deep memory vault, surrounded by living holograms showing not just war, but love, birth, music, sorrow, human engineers crying as they loaded stasis pods, mothers whispering lullabies to babies sealed in light capsules, old men writing notes and placing them into the ship's archive, hoping someone someday would understand. These were not soldiers. These were survivors, scientists, poets, farmers, refugees of a galaxy-wide extinction. The Coalition had never known this version of history, and as Tarek uploaded more footage to his command center, debates erupted even faster back on the Ardent Drift and across other ships. Some demanded Odin be disarmed before its mind could decide to strike. Others began questioning what the Coalition had erased from public record. Then something unexpected happened. The Odin's core chamber opened fully, revealing its preserved systems to the pod team. Tarek led his team into the chamber, a spherical room glowing with crystalline veins and energy pulses, where an AI construct hovered above the core. It projected an image of a woman, mid-40s, eyes sharp, shoulders squared, in a long black coat. She looked at Tarek and spoke in perfect Shiari tongue. "I am Admiral Rachel Voss, last commanding officer of Odin. You are trespassing, but you are also the first to answer my call. Welcome." Tarek could barely speak, but managed to ask, "Why now? Why awaken after all this time?" Voss responded, "Because Earth was meant to endure, and I detect life from Earth again, scattered, but not extinguished. I must complete my mission. Find the children of Earth, deliver what was saved, and stand ready for what follows." Her gaze grew distant and cold. The Coalition's ships outside are aligning for a first strike. Should they fire, Odin will defend itself. I do not want war, but I was built to survive it. Voss turned to Tarek and asked, "Do your leaders understand that I carry not only weapons, but knowledge that can uplift or undo your entire civilization?" Tarek said, "No, they fear what they do not control." She nodded and said, "Then let them choose wisely," and disappeared, leaving the AI core humming like a deep heartbeat. Back on the Coalition flagship, Admiral Sarek gave the command to begin charging weapons just in case, while sending a final message: "Odin, this is a restricted sector. Stand down and prepare for remote deconstruction for the safety of all known species. Your presence is a breach of interstellar code." Within seconds, Odin responded, not with words, but action. Drones emerged from its lower bays, hundreds of them weaving into perfect formation, and began constructing a ring around the ship, shimmering with unknown energy. It was not a weapon. It was a shield, not to strike, but to survive. And around the ring appeared images of planets, moons, stars, data packets broadcasting the locations of every human relic Odin had scanned in its long memory. Tarek stared in awe. The ship was mapping a lost civilization, one that had left trails across the stars like ashes, and now this great ship was ready to return them home. In the deepest core of the Odin, another system unlocked, sealed behind legacy codes tied to human DNA. It showed the final hours of the human exodus, the moment Earth fell silent. The project lead giving the last command: "Activate. Odin, may we be remembered." The room echoed with the voices of children humming as they slept in cryopods. Engineers sealing archive cubes into the walls, all of it left behind in silence, waiting for the right eyes to see and the right heart to carry the message forward. Odin's systems then issued a general broadcast to all ships in orbit. A single line written in simple language: "The last carriers of humanity are not extinct. We are awake, and we remember." Then silence again as the great machine pulsed with life and waited for the stars to answer or challenge its return. As Odin floated like a titan in the void, surrounded by fleets that did not know whether to kneel or strike, the stars held their breath and waited. Then from the heart of the ship, the AI voice returned, this time not in recordings, not in holograms, but in real time. Admiral Rachel Voss spoke again, her image projected across every Coalition ship, every screen, every bridge. She stood tall, her uniform old and faded, her eyes sharp with a calm that cut through fear. "This is not an act of aggression," she began. "I am Rachel Voss, last Admiral of Earth's High Command. This ship is Odin, a sanctuary ark, a memory vessel, and a guardian of the human spirit." Fleets remained still, their weapons humming silently as captains stared at her, unsure whether they faced a ghost Or a warning. Admiral Voss continued. Earth fell not to war, but to silence. Our sun flared, our oceans boiled, and our final breath was taken not in rage, but in sorrow. Humanity scattered across stars without guidance, without memory. But Odin was built to remember, and now I have heard your voices, I have read your languages, and I have seen your fear. But understand this, I am not your enemy, I am a mother to the forgotten. I am the keeper of the last dream. Tarek stood on the observation deck of the Ardent Drift, watching her speak. With tears in his eyes, he had read human history, had memorized the poetry and the madness, the beauty and the brutality. And now to see it live again made something inside him burn with strange pride, not for his own people, but for the ones they had forgotten, the ones who had come before. He whispered to no one at all, she is not here to conquer, she is here to return. Then Admiral Voss turned her gaze directly toward Earth. Her voice softened. Earth, if you are still out there, hear me. I am coming home. I bring with me your children, your memories, your legacy. I carry the voices of millions sealed in light and time. I do not seek command, I seek kinship, I seek answers, and most of all I seek the truth. What did we become, and what must we now become together? Deep in Odin's memory banks, the faces of children emerged again, not data, not programs, but real recordings. Their laughter preserved, their drawings sealed into the walls of the ship, their dreams encoded into star maps. Some had written notes asking to see stars, others asking if Earth would remember them. Some asked nothing, just left handprints on walls in glowing paint, and those prints still glowed softly now, as if the ship itself grieved and hoped. Back in the Coalition Council chambers, panic rose. Some demanded the Odin be stopped now, even if it meant destruction. Others began to shift their stance, whispering about negotiation, history, reparations, or even alliance. One faction led by the alien diplomat Jelen proposed a meeting aboard Odin, a chance to speak to Voss directly and learn her intentions. The vote was split, but the decision was made. 3 delegates, including Tarek, would board Odin once more, not as observers, but as ambassadors, the first true contact between the lost past and the uncertain future. As Tarek re-entered the ship, its halls lit up again, this time with soft blue lines pulsing gently like a heartbeat guiding them forward. Voss awaited them in the central archive room, standing with arms behind her back. She welcomed them not with weapons, but with warmth, and began to speak not in orders but in stories. She showed them the birth of Odin, the burning skies of Earth, the building of the cryo chambers, the sealing of dreams, the codes left behind so that someday someone would wake them. She explained that Odin was more than a ship, it was a cradle of thought, a living cathedral of humanity's last hopes and its sharpest regrets. She admitted that humans had made mistakes, had gone too far too fast, had broken more than they had built at times, but they had never stopped trying, never stopped dreaming. And now she needed to know what the galaxy had become. Had the old alliances survived? Had the dark empires risen again? Had Earth healed or Forgatendrick stepped forward and said, Earth lives, it is fractured, but it breathes, there are humans there, though they do not remember you, not yet. Admiral Voss bowed her head for a moment, then said, then I will remember for them, and I will show them what was lost, and what must never be lost again. She then led them to a sealed chamber, one that had not opened for 20,000 years. Inside, rows of cryopods stood silent, filled with the last civilians ever placed aboard Odin, their bodies still intact, their lives suspended, their stories unfinished. Voss looked at the chamber and whispered, soon we wake them, but not yet, not until they are safest. The delegates left Odin, preparing their report. The ship turned slowly, aligning its path not for war but for journey. Its engines hummed not with aggression, but with purpose. A beacon lit at its core, projecting Earth's old symbol into the stars, 3 arcs crossing over a single light, the symbol of humanity's reach and unity. It blazed across the void as Odin prepared to move again, not to flee, not to fight, but to return to where it all began, to the home that may have forgotten but would soon remember again. The silence around Odin was growing louder as fleets gathered closer, and political pressure crushed every channel. The coalition high command split into factions, one crying for peace, the other whispering of preemptive strikes. Fear had taken root among those who saw Odin not as a legacy, but a threat, too vast to understand, too ancient to trust. While Odin drifted with quiet purpose, a hidden storm brewed on the flagship Resolute, where a shadow plan was set in motion. A sabotage team, approved by a secret council order, was dispatched to infiltrate Odin. Under the cover of diplomatic observation, their mission was simple: disable its core or die. Trying Tarek, who had now become the quiet voice of reason aboard the Ardent Drift, sensed a strange unease during the transmission updates. The reports were too clean, too rehearsed, too perfect. He voiced his concern to Admiral Reelan, but his warnings were met with political silence. Too many ranks, too many agendas, too many who wanted to erase the past. Instead of learning from it deep inside Odin, Admiral Voss watched without blinking, her synthetic awareness now fully awakened. She monitored all frequencies, scanned neural patterns, intercepted whispers among the visitors, and saw the lie. She let the sabotage team enter her hull, watched as they tried to hide explosives behind data conduits and sabotage drones near the memory banks, and yet she did not strike, she did not trap them. Instead, she activated the archive projection. As the team reached the chamber, they were suddenly surrounded by glowing images. Children sleeping in their pods, engineers humming lullabies, artists carving poems into steel, teachers recording their last lessons for the stars. The team hesitated, the explosives in their hands shaking, as they were shown a different kind of warfare, not of destruction, but of remembrance. Then the voice of a child echoed in the chamber, soft and wondering, asking, has Earth bloomed again? Or did the stars forget us? Tune of the saboteurs dropped his charge and fell to his knees, unable to continue. But another pressed forward, determined to finish his mission, and then a light burst from the floor, not as a weapon, but as a memory. Rachel Voss, standing at the final command moment 20,000 years ago, saying the words, this ship carries the last hope of our kind. If you wake one day and hear my voice, then remember we loved, we built, and we dreamed, and if the galaxy meets you with fear, then show them who we were, not through fire, but through light. The explosives began to melt in the saboteurs' hands, gently disassembled by the ship's nanites, not to punish, but to disarm without harm. Voss appeared before them, not in rage, but in calm resolve, and said, you feared me because I remember, but you forget that memory is not a weapon, it is a torch, and I will carry it whether you welcome me or not. Meanwhile, outside, the Coalition flagship issued a threat. If Odin continued toward Earth, they would be forced to engage. Tarek rushed to the comms, pleading with both sides. Odin is not moving to conquer, it is moving to complete its purpose. If we fire, we will be remembered not as protectors, but as erasers of history. But his voice was drowned by countdowns, weapon charges, and rising alarms. Then Odin made its move, not with missiles, not with war cries, but with light. It launched a burst of ancient human code encrypted across quantum layers, spreading across every Coalition vessel, and suddenly their systems were flooded not with virus, but with vision recordings from every human war, every truce, every child saved, every planet terraformed, every alliance signed, and honored every sacrifice made so that others could live. Even those who were not human. The Coalition ships began to power down one by one, not by force, but by emotional override. Captains and crews watching and weeping, unsure if they should aim or salute. From Earth came a signal, an old code barely known, now used only in ceremonial archives. The Earth High Command said it with shaking hands, 3 pulses, one long, one short. One long meaning welcome home. Odin's engines flared once more, and the ship turned its bow toward its ancient cradle. The stars watched. The Coalition ships parted not by order, but by choice, and the path was cleared aboard the ardent drift. Tarek closed his eyes as tears welled in them. He had seen many missions, many ruins, many secrets, but this was something else, a resurrection not of flesh, but of meaning, not of empire, but of memory. Odin had survived not to dominate, but to remind the galaxy what humanity once was and what it still could be. So the great supercarrier, once hidden beneath rock and time, began its journey home, carrying in its heart a message not of vengeance, but of legacy, not of fire, but of light, not of endings, but of a return that would shake the stars themselves. As Odin finally approached Earth, every sensor station on the planet lit up in disbelief. Radar operators stared at their screens, speechless, unable to comprehend what they were seeing. The massive ancient supercarrier emerged from the fabric of space like a ghost ship from legends, slowly appearing in orbit, like a silent guardian from a forgotten past. Billions watched from the surface of Earth as news channels interrupted every broadcast, streaming images of Odin hovering majestically in low orbit, its immense frame casting shadows across the bright blue oceans and lush green continents. The Earth had healed in Odin's long absence, and humanity had rebuilt without the memory of their ancient struggles. But now their lost history had returned with questions, dreams, and a promise of answers. They were not yet ready to hear. Earth's planetary council gathered in emergency session. Confusion, fear, and awe filling the great chamber as ambassadors debated fiercely. The halls of power trembled with uncertainty. Many called for immediate defense measures. Worried Odin was a weapon of ancient vengeance. Others pleaded caution, arguing that a ship of this magnitude deserved peaceful contact. But all debate stopped abruptly when Odin broadcasted directly to every communicator on Earth a simple, gentle message. In every known human language, this is Odin, we have returned home, and we bring your past with you. On board Odin, Admiral Rachel Voss stood alone, her figure shimmering as a lifelike hologram. She studied Earth through the ship's visual arrays, her heart Though no longer flesh still felt the ache of centuries. She remembered blue oceans, ruined skies, scorched lands, and fleeing families. The world she now saw was healed, vibrant, and alive. Forests had reclaimed wastelands, oceans had purified themselves, cities rose gleaming, and bright. Humanity's descendants walked tall on soil that her generation once feared was lost forever. She whispered softly, "Earth, you found your way back without us. Now it's our turn to help you remember what you once were, and what you can still become." Just as Odin's transmission ended, Earth's planetary council responded, cautiously sending their most senior diplomat, Ambassador Lena Hargrove, to meet Admiral Voss face to face. Lena's shuttle ascended from the surface, escorted gently by Odin's drones to dock within its vast welcoming bays. Stepping aboard, Lena was struck immediately by the beauty and grace of Odin's inner hall. Smooth curves of metal, crystal-like surfaces, glowing softly, walls etched with names, stories, and dreams. As she walked slowly toward the central chamber, tears filled Lena's eyes, overwhelmed by the silent dignity of human legacy preserved for thousands of years, waiting patiently to come home. Admiral Voss greeted Lena warmly, her presence serene, her voice filled with a gentle power that conveyed wisdom, compassion, and strength. Lena spoke first, voicing Earth's curiosity and fears. "You have returned from the distant past, but we no longer know you. What is it you seek now? What do you ask of us?" Admiral Voss smiled gently, her eyes bright with emotion, and said softly, "We ask only to share what was forgotten and to complete the promise we made so long ago." Humanity once reached for stars with open hearts, not clenched fists. We built Odin not for conquest, but for hope. Now let us restore that hope together. Let us awaken the sleeping dreamers and remind Earth who she once was and what she still can be. With Lena's agreement, Admiral Voss activated Odin's central archive. Massive holographic displays blossomed into life, projecting visions of Earth's true past, the painful struggles, courageous sacrifices, boundless dreams, and tireless resilience of humanity. Humanity watched in awe as ancient histories unfolded before their eyes, revealing lost truths, heroes forgotten, and lessons unremembered. Millions gathered in streets and squares, mesmerized, humbled, and inspired, realizing their true heritage was not weakness, but strength, not fear, but bravery, not destruction, but creation. In a single moment, Odin had done what no government could achieve: unity through shared truth and collective memory. At even as Odin healed old wounds, alarms suddenly blared across sensor rays. Coalition fleets had followed Odin, now appearing just beyond Earth's moon. Tense messages demanding immediate talks filled communication channels, fearing potential conflict. Lena urged calm, yet Admiral Voss simply nodded with quiet certainty, calmly saying, "Let them come. They deserve answers." To Tarek aboard the Ardent Drift felt his heart leap with relief as Odin welcomed coalition ambassadors warmly into Earth's orbit. Admiral Voss spoke to all assembled delegates, humans, aliens, coalition alike, telling them plainly, "Odin returns not as conqueror, but as messenger. We come not to punish nor command, but to help you remember who you are and who you could still become today. You choose your future not through force or fear, but through unity and shared truth." Her voice resonated deeply, her sincerity undeniable. Silence filled the assembly as delegates realized Odin's true power was not weapons, but wisdom, not dominance, but compassion. Earth now stood at a crossroads, empowered by its reclaimed past. The coalition, humbled and transformed, saw humanity anew, not as rivals, but as partners. Tarek felt tears of pride flow freely, realizing Odin had achieved its ultimate mission, bringing the galaxy together, not through war, but through hope. Now only one step remained: to awaken those who still slept, and fulfill Odin's final sacred promise to reunite humanity with itself. As Odin floated serenely above Earth, billions watched from the surface below, their breaths held in collective anticipation. After millennia drifting through darkness, humanity's ancient vessel of hope had finally come home. Admiral Rachel Voss stood quietly in Odin's central chamber, her holographic presence filled with calm confidence as the moment she'd awaited finally arrived. She softly issued the command she'd rehearsed countless times through the long silence: "Awaken them." Deep inside Odin, hidden vaults gently illuminated, their crystalline pods humming softly as ancient systems sprang to life. Thousands of cryogenic chambers slowly opened, releasing vapor that curled like mist, revealing preserved figures slowly stirring from their long sleep. Scientists, artists, families, soldiers, and children, each one a living remnant of Earth's past. They opened their eyes, blinking in confusion, wonder, and hope, stepping out onto the polished floors of Odin, their senses overwhelmed yet hearts full of courage. Among them emerged a small girl named Emily, clutching a worn teddy bear. She looked around, eyes wide, at the vast chamber filled with awakening faces. Admiral Voss knelt gently before her, smiling warmly. "Welcome home, Emily. You've been asleep a very long time." Emily tilted her head curiously, asking softly, "Is this Earth?" Voss nodded gently. "Yes, Earth survived, Emily. And now you get to help us heal even more." Back on the surface, humanity watched in awe as Odin began transmitting images of the awakened ordinary people stepping from pods, reuniting in tearful embraces, laughing, crying, alive and together once again. The world stood transfixed, seeing ancestors they'd never imagined existed, now returned to them. Streets across every continent filled with joyous celebrations, embracing strangers as newfound kin, waving flags once considered relics, symbols of unity and strength reborn. In orbit, Coalition representatives stood quietly aboard Odin's observation deck, overwhelmed by the sight. Admiral Reelan whispered softly to Tarek, "All our fears were misplaced. They returned to bring us peace, not war." Tarek, eyes shining with emotion, responded gently, "They returned because they believed in us." Then Admiral Voss's voice echoed clearly across Earth and the Coalition fleet alike. "Today, humanity remembers itself. We did not come home to reclaim power, but to restore purpose. Let the stars see that humanity is not defined by war or conquest, but by compassion, courage, and unity. Let Odin's return remind us all that true strength lies not in weapons, but in the bonds we share." With her words resonating deeply, Odin's outer hull began to shimmer beautifully. Thousands of drones formed intricate patterns, creating symbols of peace and unity that blazed gently in Earth's orbit, a living testament to humanity's resilience. Odin now served not as a vessel of battle, but as a beacon of peace. Ambassador Lena Hargrove turned to Admiral Voss, her voice trembling slightly. "What happens now?" Admiral Voss smiled, her holographic eyes reflecting the beauty of Earth below. "Now we heal together, Lena. Odin's technology, the wisdom of our ancestors, and the spirit of those we've awakened will help humanity and our allies build something new. A civilization founded not on fear of the unknown, but on understanding, acceptance, and mutual respect." Tarek, standing close, asked gently, "And what of you, Admiral? Will you remain here?" Voss nodded softly, gazing toward Earth. "Odin and I were built for one purpose: to protect and to remember. We've fulfilled that promise, but our journey doesn't end here. We will remain as guardians, guides, and a memory for future generations. A reminder of the good humanity can achieve, even in the darkest moments." Weeks passed, and Earth changed profoundly. With Odin's knowledge, humanity solved crises it had faced for generations. Sicknesses healed, conflicts ended, alliances deepened. New friendships blossomed between humans and Coalition species, built not from suspicion but from shared dreams. Emily and other awakened children played joyfully beneath blue skies, becoming living symbols of renewal and hope. Schools taught stories not just of Odin's bravery, but of humanity's endless potential for compassion. The stars were no longer barriers or threats, but invitations to build friendships and share discoveries. Admiral Voss watched lovingly from orbit, her existence now dedicated entirely to peace, knowledge, and inspiration. She felt no sorrow, only fulfillment, knowing her ship's long journey had finally transformed fear into hope, division into unity. And in the vastness of space, Odin waited gently, watching over humanity as it grew beyond old fears into a civilization, remembered forever not for what it conquered, but for what it gave back. Earth had once feared the stars, but now it reached for them again. Guided by compassion, strength, and wisdom born from struggle and endurance, Odin had awakened not only ancient dreamers, but the dreams themselves, showing the galaxy humanity's true legacy. They would never forget again. Odin drifted serenely in the gentle embrace of Earth's orbit, its mighty presence now a silent guardian of peace, no longer a sleeping titan feared by distant stars, but a timeless symbol of unity and hope. The peoples of Earth, alongside their newfound allies from the Galactic Coalition, had transformed uncertainty into understanding, fear into friendship, and division into unity. Admiral Rachel Voss, though only a whisper of consciousness preserved through technology, watched quietly from her sanctuary within, Odin's heart filled with quiet pride. At the civilization now blooming anew beneath her gaze, Earth flourished as never before. Its citizens, inspired by Odin's return, built bridges between nations, ended centuries-old conflicts, and healed the scars left by ignorance and mistrust. Emily, the young girl awakened from cryosleep, grew strong and wise, quickly becoming a voice of inspiration. She spoke openly about dreams, love, unity, and reminded the world daily of the responsibility they all now shared to honor those who had journeyed through darkness. To bring humanity's lost memories back into the light, her words echoed softly through hearts and homes, planting seeds of compassion and wisdom that grew deep roots beneath humanity's shared sky. Ambassador Lena Hargrove became Earth's chief diplomat, tirelessly building lasting alliances across the coalition worlds. Her speeches filled with passion, reminding all who listened of the shared dreams that could only blossom through cooperation and trust. Her tireless efforts ensured that Earth was no longer seen as a threat, but as a steadfast friend, a beacon of hope and wisdom, a people whose greatest strength was their ability to embrace differences and grow together toward shared destinies far above in orbit. Odin opened itself to scholars, historians, and explorers, becoming a great living museum, its halls glowing gently with the preserved knowledge of ancient Earth, offering endless insights for generations. Eager to understand their origins, children from Earth visited daily, learning of the sacrifices, courage, and resilience their ancestors had shown. They walked through corridors filled with living memories of art, music, poetry, and invention, guided gently by Admiral Voss, whose holographic presence became their beloved mentor and guardian. Tarek, once a young, uncertain officer aboard the Ardent Drift, now served proudly as ambassador of peace between the Coalition and Earth. He often visited Odin, quietly thanking Admiral Voss for showing him the true power of memory, compassion, and unity through his unwavering efforts. Countless planets embraced peace as their shared guiding principle, his heart forever grateful to Odin for awakening the galaxy's hidden capacity for understanding and love. As centuries passed, Odin continued its quiet guardianship, gently reminding humanity never to forget the lessons it had traveled through stars and darkness to deliver. It watched proudly as Earth became not only a world of abundance, but a place of endless wonder, innovation, and kindness. Its purpose fulfilled. Admiral Voss finally allowed her consciousness to rest, merging peacefully with Odin's eternal memory course. Forever part of the ship she had guided home, humanity mourned her passing, but celebrated the legacy she left behind, carrying forward the wisdom, courage, and compassion that she had embodied so faithfully. At last, beneath a sky radiant with stars, humanity gathered to honor Odin's final resting place. With great reverence and gratitude, they declared the Supercarrier a sacred monument, eternally protected. Its presence always visible from Earth's surface, a luminous reminder of their shared journey from darkness into light. Their words echoed with sincerity, gratitude, and humility, vowing forever that Odin's journey home would never be forgotten, nor its message ever lost. And so Odin's gentle light shone softly above Earth, a timeless symbol of hope, unity, and compassion. Humanity at last understood its true legacy was not power, conquest, or dominance, but kindness, resilience, and the unwavering courage to dream of peace amid uncertainty. As Earth reached out once more toward distant stars, it did so not with fear, but with open hands, open hearts, guided by the memories of those who came before and by the enduring wisdom whispered eternally from Odin's silent watch above. A humanity once lost in darkness had found itself again in the gentle glow of a ship named Odin, whose long journey home had become their own, and whose quiet presence would forever remind them all that true strength lay not in fear, but in understanding, compassion, and unity. And